Zaden Dione. I am the Electric Ninja. Come on into my laboratory. Today on the Display Affection for It show, we are looking at an important piece, or should I say, pieces of gaming history, the Ultima series. If you guys are at all interested in where digital RPGs come from and things like computer and console game history, have I got a treat for you. The Ultima series are some of the earliest commercially available computer-based RPGs, and greatly influenced all digital RPGs to come in the West as well as the East, and even the rest of the game industry. The Ultima series began way back in the 70s when Richard Garriott, also known as Lord British, was learning to program. He was inspired by D&D and, of course, Tolkien, like everyone. But he also named the Chronicles of Narnia as inspiration. So this is why you have the player character returning to their own world between games and being summoned back each time in the Ultima series. He personally programmed 20 or so games based on D&D on the computer at his school. He just named them D&D 1, D&D 2, and so on. So he took the best one and transferred it to the Apple II, renamed it Akalabeth, and released it independently in 1979. This had a very basic interface and world map, but included the first-person dungeons that would be part of the series through Ultima 5. The success of Akalabeth got other companies interested in publishing his games, and he would join up with some of them, but he eventually started his own company, Origin System, with his brother. Do you like retcons? Good, because this series is full of them. Akalabeth was kind of considered a spiritual predecessor to the Ultima series for a while, but was later retconned to be known as Ultima Zero, so kind of considered part of the series, but not everyone agrees on this. Some say Akalabeth was like an ancient name for Caesarea, the world for the rest of the series. But yeah, every game in the series will make references to the previous games, usually in the manuals. Remember manuals? But there will always be differences, probably because it was a long time since you last came to Caesarea. Like in Chronicles of Narnia, it might be a few hundred years between your visits, at least from the perspective of those in that world. What was history would become legend. This was a time when game manuals were important, and Ultima games included one or more books, often a lore book and a spell book, and even a cloth map of the world. Do you like technology mixed with your fantasy? Well, you're in luck. The first three Ultimas are not just medieval fantasy, but include high technology like supercomputers, hovercrafts, airplanes, space battles, and even time travel, a lot like the Final Fantasy series. These three games form a trilogy known as the Age of Darkness. They are considered some of the earliest true open-world computer games, as you are given a world map that basically represents the entire world. You could literally go around the world, while towns were small symbols that you could enter to see more of them. So you just see a little town symbol on the map, and you go in, and then you see the whole map of the town. That world is Caesarea, not the real world. Except for in Ultima 2, that's kind of complicated and hard to explain. This style heavily influenced games like Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy had the same style through 9, though obviously in a 3D format. You had an entire world to explore with towns, castles, and dungeons that you could enter for a closer look. The second trilogy was originally called the Age of the Avatar, but was later changed to the Age of Enlightenment. Ultima 4, The Quest of the Avatar, along with the later games, popularized the use of the Sanskrit word avatar, and where it came to mean a character or picture representing a user online, like on a message board or in an MMO. Ultima 6 led to two short-lived spin-off series. The Worlds of Ultima series were games built on the exact same engine as Ultima 6. Though they involve the Avatar, they do not take place in Caesarea. Since 6 abandoned the 3D dungeons of the past in favor of a more continuous world, the Ultima Underworld series was created with a completely 3D first-person engine. This heavily influenced the first-person shooter genre. So then the third trilogy, the Age of Armageddon, appropriately marks the end of the series. 7 is considered the pinnacle of the series. It was actually 2 games, and each of those had an expansion pack. Though they're not the first games to have expansions, they did help popularize the concept. 7 may be the first game to have a content rating. The creators knew it had some disturbing content, so they voluntarily gave it a mature players rating. Then this was years before the ESRB was formed. And then the dark times came. EA purchased Origin Systems around this time and imposed strict deadlines, and this affected Ultima 8, which was controversial for several reasons. The box art for one, and the complete change of gameplay to a more action-oriented style, which would, interestingly, inspire games like Diablo and Nox. The game also takes place in an entirely different world. The worst thing is it was rushed. The game and the included materials all imply the game was intended to be much bigger. It is also the first of the main series to omit gender selection, though you are wearing a helmet the whole time, but in 9, the avatar is clearly male, and there's no option to choose female. 9 was a very ambitious game, being fully 3D and open world. However, EA screwed that up and rushed it out incomplete and buggy. There were patches that fixed most of the bugs, but nothing would fix the bad writing and rushed feeling.
What's a paladin?
Your knowledge of the land shall be great.
Except for certain fan-made mods. The Ultima series also led to 2 MMOs, Ultima Online, which popularized the MMO genre, and Shroud of the Avatar, a hybrid of solo and MMO gameplay, directed by Richard Garriott years after EA destroyed Origin Systems. EA tried to make a couple Ultima games on their own, but nobody really cares about those. Anyway, the entire series is available from Good Old Games, sometimes called GOG. Some of them are even for free. Thank you for watching. Dan.
What are you doing on my channel? Well, I guess... But on?